And we are live, guys. What's going on? I really have enjoyed sports, but I almost love it that I can focus on all you guys' beautiful face. Well, I'll say Gov's Panda and Mike's face. So we're not watching any live sports. There's no one punching each other tonight. I mean, we do have the USFL game on, but they messed up. They put the best quarterback and the best offense on Peacock. And no disrespect to NBC's streaming service, but how can you take the best offense in the USFL this season? In my opinion, like the most exciting uh, offense. Scott's been kind of a revelation. He's like the homegrown guy. He's like the field of dreams. Like nobody knows him from the NFL. So like he would have been your guy. Like he would have been your marquee guy. And so like to put that game on a network that people weren't paying attention to is a mistake. What people were paying attention to, Mike, was the NFL draft. So we talked about the first round, and if anyone hadn't went back and watched that, please do. We are closing in on our sub count of 100, and once we get there, the day we get there, the moment we get there, the minute we get there, we're going to release our tiers of prizes. And to be honest with you, if we can get over 100, maybe we'll do a few more. So, like, let's keep that train moving. I know this is a little podcast that could, and people might say, like, oh, it's too early to give away things or promise things. No, it's not. We do things a little bit different over here, and we want to give it to people who are first adapters or who are willing to give a little podcast like us a chance. And I have to say, Mike, or as I kick it to you, I do think this was the NFL draft for the little guy. Like all the bathroom teams that people will think are the basement teams. I think it was moving day for mom's basement teams, man. The Jets, the Lions, the Giants, and
They all
then
had a lot of picks early too, so
yeah,
that helped. And they've been doing a good job of accumulating those picks over the last couple of years. Uh, as a Giants fan, I can say at least thank you to Dave Gettleman in that last year for trading back and then getting that second pick this year. Because even though you didn't get to pick those, because you probably would have screwed those up too, you did give us 2 top 10 picks, and we appreciate it. And I think we did good with those. But to say what, to go along with what you were saying, the draft for the little guy, I think that kind of speaks to maybe not just the little guy, but the unsung heroes of football. Because we always think about the skill guys, and granted, the wide receivers definitely got their fair share of love in this draft. They all got tons of love, and that goes to show you with the contracts of the big time wide receivers, what they're demanding right now. Everybody's just trying to strike gold with their new wide receivers. But I think what we saw in the draft with no running backs being drafted in the first round and only one quarterback being drafted in the first round, then the next quarterback being drafted in the third round. And it wasn't even Malik Willis, who we thought might be with Kenny Pickett neck and neck. It was Desmond Ridder, and I love the pick. I think it's a great fit in Atlanta. I love that they took a wide receiver in the first round with him. But I think it was an interesting draft, and I enjoyed it, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward. I don't know if Gov wants to get in on anything before we go any further.
No, I'll go on with what you guys did. I'll admit I didn't get to watch much of the draft. Being a Panthers fan, I didn't have a day 2 pick. I'm glad we were able to get Corral. I thought we did pretty well in the draft, to be honest. Like, we could have – I wasn't thrilled about just taking those linebackers in the 4th and the 6th, but they were good play. They're good players. They can play in a lot of different spots. They might end up being like safeties or defensive ends, so we'll see. But I'll let you guys take the lead on this.
well, I want to talk about it in a macro sense because, like, there's no point in breaking. I mean, we broke down the first round draft. If you have an appetite for that, that's wonderful. I thought we did a pretty good job of that. But to do that as well as like a PFF will do or CBS Sports or some of these bigger ones. I think, to be honest with you, that's not really our lane. And our lane is kind of the layman's man sports guy. Like that's kind of the vibe we want to give off. In the offseason is just three guys that get together in this like bar like setting and we eat some of the bar nuts, we have some pretzels, we have a few drinks, and we kind of steer the conversation. But so when we talk about winners and losers, we're not talking about specific players or specific, we can talk about anything. And one of the things I got to hit on is this. So I listen to a lot of pro football talk information. And Eric Eager brought up this point, and I think I might have mentioned it on the podcast before. And his brilliant point, and it's so on brand for me. And as soon as I heard it, I had to rewind the podcast and listen to it again because it was so good. He said if you could have went back in the draft and drafted Tom Brady in the year he got drafted, would you take him in the first round? And if you really think about it from an analytical standpoint and just as a football fan, the answer should be no, because you already know his value isn't going to equal first round according to most teams. Now, some people believe in the conspiracy or this magical feeling that you can sip on butterflies, so maybe you take them a bit earlier, but to take them in the first round isn't a damaging thing to a Hall of Famer, obviously. It's just when there's other value out there that you know is going to go in the first round, other Hall of Famers, it's better to get those people first and then circle back. I have to say the Patriots, from all accounts, nobody was taking that offensive lineman. And so from a value standpoint, not even speaking on the kid's talent, he could turn out to be a Hall of Famer, and I would still stand by this take. I thought they reached. And there's actually a video where the Super Bowl champion Sean McVay, head coach, thought they reached. And it was an egregious statement. I thought it was an unfiltered, actual honest statement from the NFL. I would have left it be, but basically he mocked the Patriots, essentially saying that they could have got this guy in the second or third round, which I don't think was that much of a shot or a mockery as it just was true. But he had to walk the statement back because he's a head coach and a figure man and all that. But wouldn't you agree that was one of the biggest reaches of the draft? I'll let any of you talk about that. That was in the first round, so I'm sure you guys might have a comment there.
Yeah, I can't have Gov doesn't want to go, but
I agree with Logan on that. Like, I didn't really see a problem with the guy's statement. Like, I kind of agreed with it. I thought it was a reach for New England to grab that guy. I mean, if they got their guy, they got their guy. But maybe it was a reach. Like, realistically, it was a reach. No one else was really thinking about him in the late first round. You could have probably got him in the second.
Yeah, I understand that. Bill Belichick is the GOAT when it comes to coaching, at least. I think regardless of the scandals, and that's still going to stick with him, but people are still going to give him the credit. He's won 7 titles now. It's the best. But I think last year he took a guy, I can't remember the school. It was just a no-name school, though. And I know this is Chattanooga, and I know Terrell Owens, I believe, came from the same school. But this is not a school that plays against big-time competition all the time. And to just take a guy from that school, regardless of position, it's kind of a reach in the first round, even if it's late first round. I understand you don't always get the deals you want when you want to trade back, but you can't tell me there is not someone that was willing to trade up or, maybe lessen your offer for what you're looking to trade back. Like, you want something extra, and if you just move back 5-10 spots, that guy's going to be there. So that's all I'll say. That guy was not going to go in the next 10 picks. I would think. I could be wrong. I'm not in the draft rooms, but an offensive lineman from Chattanooga. I don't think anyone predicted that in the first round.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone from Chattanooga.
Well, look,
I mean, he was a decently highly graded guard, but I would have expected him to go mid-second to early third.
well, that's my point. Is look, guys, it's not that I am not taking a shot at this kid's talent. He could be a Hall of Famer. It's like my Tom Brady analogy. You have to understand value. Okay, you have to understand style. And we can admit that Tom Brady, as we pull our first comment up here, we can admit that not Tom Brady, that Bill Belichick is the best
Double
coach.
J.
Yeah, what's up, Double J? But we can admit that Bill Belichick is the best head coach, while also admitting he's a shitty general manager. I will say it. He hasn't ever drafted a wide receiver that was worth it. Now, the only reason they were good at wide receiver, in my opinion, that one year was because Tom Brady convinced Randy Moss to come to town, similar to what he did with Antonio Brown when he made that Tampa Bay period before Godwin got hurt. Like, both things can be true. Bill Belichick can be a good head coach and a terrible general manager, and vice versa. So as we scroll through some of the more big board, and we just, Kyle Hamilton going to the Ravens was incredible. The Lions getting Williams. I want to, like I say, we're not going to break it down the way most people do, because with a little podcast that you probably want us to chug along and talk about things in a different, unique way. At least I want to do that. So that's how we're going to attack it for this night. But as I bring in my favorite snare, which is the three of us, that's not the one I wanted, of course, but I'll get this right. But what I'm trying to say, though, is I think you have to know value. And everyone's talking about the quarterbacks not getting drafted. Does it really matter if they end up being good quarterbacks? I mean to say, so what if Trevor Lawrence getting picked number 1 is just as good as Ritter with the Falcons? Would it matter if one is drafted higher than the other? Yes, it does matter. Okay, that's the answer for me. But 5 years from now, when they both need to get paid, all you really want are starters. You just want the guys you draft to be starters. So if you want that guy to be a starter and he starts for you and he succeeds, then you're willing to pay him, and we have no problem. The problem is when you draft a guy to be a starter and he's just terrible. So if you evaluate these quarterbacks and you think they're all Jamarcus Russell or Ryan Leaf from a maturity standpoint, don't draft them. So we're going to find out who was right and who was wrong, because Kenny Pickett's still going to get a chance to play. Willis will get a chance to play. Sam Howell will get a chance to play. Even a guy like Carson Strong, who didn't get drafted because of a knee injury, will get a chance. Maybe that
Ritter's going to win the job.
He might. That's a bold take. Go ahead, Mike. Tell people why. Tell people why that's such a strong conviction for you.
He's 4-year starter, and who's he going up against? Matt Ryan just got a trade.
Mariota.
Mariota. Ritter's got that job. I know you like Mariota, and you can make your take on why Mariota. But Desmond Ritter he's just as fast, if not faster, as than Mariota, and I just think he's a proven winner. And I know Mariota was, but Mariota's been a proven mediocre at best quarterback in the NFL. And I think Ritter's just going to prove enough in the preseason and in the locker room with the team. I think, no disrespect to Mariota as a leader or like he's still a good backup, I think, and I think they kind of suit each other. Like I think Atlanta had a plan to draft Ritter the whole time, maybe, and that was part of the reason why they wanted Mariota as the backup, because I think regardless if Mariota does win the job, I think Ritter's a great backup for Mariota, and then eventually the guy to take over, even if Ritter's not the guy this year, if he's not ready for whatever reason. But I think, I don't know. The more I'm thinking about their draft, I don't know enough about London because I didn't really see him play, but I know there's enough people who love his game, and I'm sure you like him because he's 6'4", and you always like the big receivers, and they're talking about his boxed out game, like almost like a tight end and red zone, threat. So I don't know. I don't have to keep on going on and on about how much I like the Falcons and Ritter right now, but
Would you bet it?
To win what?
Would you bet their win total? I think their win total right now is at 6.5.
I'll have to look at their team a little bit more full. They got Kyle Pitts.
Answer the question. Over under 6.5.
Right now today, I gave you
bullet to the head.
Probably over, but I'm not gonna. That's with the bullet to the head. You said that, and that's what if you say that, then I have to pick.
Exactly.
Because I have to and then once you make a pick, then it's like, all right, the guy takes the bullet off your head, you get it.
right.
All right, what's Double J saying?
He didn't like the draft. He didn't think it was a good draft. I like I said, I disagree. You come to the table, like we're all gamblers. We've all seen it, right? And I mentioned him a couple of times, but I just think he's so intelligent. Eric Eager from PFF said it. No matter if you're playing NASCAR, you're playing NFL on Sunday, or you're playing the USFL on opening weekend, if you're willing to grind the edges and find and go where most people aren't, the profit is still green at the end of the day. So if we watch a product that we enjoy, that might not always align with making money. And sometimes that's how it is in your everyday work too. Sometimes you just got to tie the bootstraps up and, go to work. And so I'm biased because the draft has always been really good for me ever since. And I know it hasn't been that long. It's only been a couple of years. But ever since Michigan became legal to bet, the draft props during the draft are fantastic. I would go as far to say if you don't bet the draft props every year and you have the ability, you were leaving money on the table and you were stupid. I will say that if you don't bet the NFL draft and you know football and you can do it legally, then you are leaving so much money on the table.
Shame on you. Or shame on me because I didn't actually bet any.
I also did not put any bets down on the but I did not. I was afraid.
Shame on us,
like again, I know as a Panthers fan who I wanted to take at 6, but I thought the Giants were actually going to be smart and take Icky at 5 and then get Tibbs at 7 because hot take of the draft. Not a big fan of Tibbs.
I like him, but
might be the first round bust. Might be the first round bust.
By the way,
might be, but I don't mind taking him early and rather than paying him later, like a Clowney, like a Jadeveon Clowney, where you're paying him $22 million, even if it's for 1 year, because he's a rental at this point every year now. Like we're getting on a rookie deal, so.
By the way, Double J is one of my friends for a while. His favorite team is the Denver Broncos.
Oh, okay. Well, he's happy with Russell, I assume, then.
Well, not just Russell, but he's a big Williams guy. He thinks the combination of Russell and Williams. I know this for a fact. Double J is also a believer that Williams can show more in the passing game. And we know Russell does like to to set that.
Oh, Javante.
Yeah, Javante. So
Oh, I liked him at North Carolina too.
I still can't believe they kept Gordon. Like, why would you re-sign Melvin Gordon? Like, just get a cheap guy to back up Javante and spend that money elsewhere. But I guess that gives Russ an amazing run game too. So, like, Russ has good to great weapons and an amazing run game. Their offense should just click next year.
And I hate to give this man too much credit, but Tom Brady said it once. He said, "I'd rather have a veteran back there because pass protection is so valuable."
That's so true.
And he also said, when you, even if you're not a good running back or like you don't have as much juice, there's a reason Frank Gore made it so long in the league, and it's because they can be leaders in the classroom.
Yeah.
And then he went on to talk about his CB12 and really sell his product. But I don't blame him. Make your money. But why don't I do this as we wrap up the NFL? I'm going to put you guys not on the spot, but like I said, we want to do this a bit different. So I'm just going to go through some of these prospects, and you tell me if you think they'll be a starter this year or not. So are they a development, and will they start, and then will they make an impact? Hutchinson for the Lions. Will he start, or will he be benched?
He's probably starting.
Definitely starting.
So is there any big takeaways statistically you want to make, like 5 sacks?
He'll make an impact for sure. Like he might hit 10 sacks. I wouldn't say that's out of the question at all. Like he might even do more. I would say 10 sacks is like should be the over under on his.
But by the way, Mike, it's at 6.5 right now.
Oh, I would take the over on that.
But you have to eat a little bit. It's at minus 100, I think, 6.5. My guess for why it's so low is because maybe they're not predicting the Lions be winning a lot of games, so he won't have as many late game pressures because the teams will be running against them. That's my only get. I can't imagine why it's so low because sacks are, sacks are they're up. Like people are, especially with the games going up too. Like all stats are up. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a inefficiency in the marketplace. Also with wins and losses, we saw it last year, but especially again this year. I think it's going to take the sports books a while to adjust to the extra year and just like what that means, because so many of these books rely on like analytics and almost a computerized approach that I think for the next like 2 to 3 years, the first year obviously, and then the next 2 years, I think the win totals will be slightly off. Did you guys? So Derek Stingley Jr., does he start? Does he not? And what kind of numbers do you expect?
Ooh, I got him starting. Yeah.
I think so. They tuck him over Gardner, who a lot of people thought was higher.
Barring an injury in training camp, he's starting.
I will say what I like about Stingley is he's feisty, man. He's a smaller corner, but he's never let that be known. And then he's like, I'm 6 foot. I can't help it that these guys are bigger. I'm still fundamental, where a lot of these big corners are kind of gadgety guys. That was
he's definitely starting. Like if you're drafting a cornerback 3rd overall, or
when I say starting,
anyone.
I'm making an impact. Like
okay. I mean,
different language.
He's on Houston, right? I think like he's mostly irrelevant during his first season because I think Houston struggles all year. They're going to be terrible, just terrible.
By the way, Double J, because I know we're on a delay, so I'll set you up with a question as we continue here. Do you think Freddie Swain and KJ Hamler are going to kind of be on the same plane, or do you think Russell's really going to take
our narrative?
KJ and make him a bigger star. Because I think losing Fant was a mistake for Denver. I think Fant's going to actually do really well over in Seattle. I know you have Akui Bunum, but I'm a big believer in Fant, and that's also why I don't think the Seahawks got as fleeced as some people think they did. Charles Cross, impact or not, go?
I don't know. Like, not early.
Not really, no.
I don't think an offensive lineman is going to help Seattle early. Like, it'll help stabilize the team while they're transitioning in this period, but they're clearly in rebuild. So
we'll wrap it up here because we don't want to go through the whole class. But what I'll say about Gardner that I found really interesting, he never gave up a touchdown in college. And he claims, Mike, he's going to do that in the NFL. Now, obviously, he's not going to do that in the NFL. He's going to give up a touchdown at some point in his career. But in college, his whole career, he never gave up a touchdown. How long in the NFL can he make it without giving up a touchdown?
Well, he's Sauce Island. You know, he's the new island in New York. It's not Long Island. It's not Revis Island. It's Sauce Island. And I'm a Giants fan, but I know that he's the new big-time corner in New York, and he's going to be the reason the Jets get a lot of press. I think the Jets are making a good move with that. They also drafted really well. I like their whole draft, or especially their first-round picks. I know they had to trade up to get back into the first round for the third pick, but well worth it when they get a guy who could have gone in the top 10 at number 26. They just filled a lot of spots. It's going to depend on Zach Wilson a lot if he can take that next step. But they're putting the weapons around him. They're giving him protection, and they're giving him a defense. I think they're building the same type of roster that Mark Sanchez had when they made their runs to the AFC Championship game. Now, Mark Sanchez was not the guy, and I think it's very well possible that Zach Wilson's not the guy. But I want to say it was Braylon Edwards with Sanchez back then, or they had some weapons. It was a fun team. They had good receivers. They got good receivers now. And he might be the guy. Maybe I'd say he's probably better than Mark Sanchez because he's way more mobile and got a way better arm. So
I would say that in all seriousness, Mike, he's better than Mark Sanchez right now because he's got the potential. Now we have to remember, we didn't see a guy like Matthew Stafford win it until much later in his career. I think we have hyperbole to a lot of these players, not just quarterbacks. I think everyone uses quarterbacks or wide receivers or these flashy, glamorous positions to make their point. But even offensive linemen, Frost, Iggy, Neal, the guy you took, all these guys, even the Patriots guy we talked about might be a reach. Look, we have to give these guys time to develop, And then we can't make fun of development leagues like the USFL or the Canadian Football League. The one league I will make fun of is that damn virtual football league that Ken Owens is a part of.
Johnny Manziel's now in it.
Yeah, but I don't like that because they're just giving 40-year-old guys a chance to make money. I mean, like that belongs on Nickelodeon, like at midnight or something. Like nobody. But I'm talking about actual development leagues. I think that's good for football. I think that's why I think the XFL is good. The Canadian Football League is good because you're going to give these guys more of a chance. And anytime competition's in the marketplace, I mean, it's good that eBay still exists out there or Etsy still exists for Amazon, even if they're not the biggest producer and Amazon still trumps them. It's good to have it out there. And Double J wanted to shoot back at you, Gov, that Gordon is only making like $2 million a year. So
yeah, that is a good deal. That's not like they didn't really pay him that much. So yeah, that's pretty good.
By the way, Double J, make sure you subscribe and like this stream because when we get to 100, we got some big giveaways coming down the pipeline, buddy. So we want. I don't know if you know this, Mike, but he's got a beautiful dog named Tank, and so he could use that gift card to get Tank some nice dog food, some high quality dog food. They can both be eating good for the Super Bowl next year, just off our dime. And all you gotta do is like and subscribe. Once we get to 100, we're gonna do some cool giveaways.
And speaking of dog food or any animal food that you might buy, you can get your dog food or cat food or any, again, animal food delivered to you online from Chewy.com. I have good things to say about Chewy.com. I won't get into it too much because they're not an official sponsor yet. But hey, maybe one day, Chewy, if you ever get word of this, we love you at our household, and we'd love to have you as a sponsor.
But truly, Mike, when it comes to sponsorship, right? I want to sponsor, and I can say this, we don't have it. I want to sponsor product that we enjoy and that we support. And so,
I do.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't mind you shouting out companies
Yeah.
that you have interest in it, and we should reach out to these companies if you feel so strongly. Firehouse Sub, by the way, also did me really well this weekend, and I made sure to give them some extra love. And by the way, I think there's a lot of dogs that are going to eat in this draft, but we can get off of that for now as we just do some rapid fire topics. I know you guys don't like it, but I actually like when you guys put me on the spot. So is there any questions where you can put me on the spot? It doesn't even got to be sports related. It could just be because I feel bad. I did it a couple weeks ago to you guys, and I like this segment. So if there's anything, and I'll give you guys some time to think about it. But two, what do you guys think about the Celtics and Bucks series game one? Overreaction to think the Bucks win the series pretty easily, or no?
I mean, that's sort of what I called pretty much early. I'm happy today because my two teams that I have in the NBA Finals won today and look good. It's like, wow, the Warriors can beat Memphis, and Klay Thompson can shoot like crap, and Curry can shoot like crap, and they can still win. That's telling.
It's a good sign for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But then Milwaukee looked amazing. Boston's probably going to make it tough. I think I have that series going 6. I'm kind of thinking 5 more likely because Boston will win a game at home. I got feeling Boston will win next game.
See, I was
going to make an adjustment, win the next game. But Milwaukee might three-peat them might 3-game sweep them after that.
See, Gov, I was nice. I thought that they might get a game. And that was when Chris Middleton was healthy. After seeing today, they don't even need Chris Middleton to sweep this team.
Save Chris Middleton for the finals so that he can play against Jimmy Butler. Because you're gonna get a Milwaukee-Miami finals. I don't see how Philly beats Miami.
I'm gonna be honest. I'll say it now. I don't think the Celtics are good. I think they faced a Nets team that was even a bigger joker at the table, and both teams got their. To use that poker analogy, both teams got their sunglasses knocked off, and we saw into their eyes, and they're not championship material. And the big yoked up arm stretch man himself, Giannis said, "Okay, boys, it's time to go to the kids' table now because the big boys are going to do some talking." And yeah,
I do think Giannis is really. I was listening to the Bucks Celtics game on the radio for the first half of the game, and maybe even a little into the third quarter, just a little bit. But it was funny. They had one of the announcers saying, like, after the Bucks started to really just assert their dominance and just like everything was clicking for them, and she was like, I gotta say, and she said it sarcastically, with a pun to it, but she's like, I gotta say that this is really looking like a team that, just won a championship. Like they are playing amazing basketball, and it's mostly because they're playing off of Giannis's confidence, which is got to be sky high. He knows he has been he's taken the monkey off his back. He's got the title. So now it's just about how many more can you win. And when you've got that confidence and when you're bigger, stronger, faster than everyone, and now you've added your jump shot.
Yeah, that's what he was missing. That's why he's my MVP. As much as I want to give it to Luka, it's Giannis. And Milwaukee's going to be in the finals. This is okay. I was actually talking about this at work. Here's a little, maybe an overreaction, but of all the young guys, Giannis has not fucked up enough where he's sort of on that trajectory where he could be an argument against Jordan. And listen to me on this. It's still early. He has plenty of times to fuck it up. But in my mind, in order to get to Jordan, you need 5 titles or more. In those 5 titles, you need a 3-peat. And you cannot go to a game 7 in the finals. Because Jordan finished every game in the finals in game 6 on an away court. Remember that.
Yeah, but I mean, people are putting LeBron in the
I know, but LeBron, but he's not.
He's lost like 6 titles.
Exactly, but he's not. That's why he'll never win that conversation. You're trying to put him in that off of stats and everything, but it's like he just wasn't that compared to Jordan.
If you just want to go with the Jordan and titles conversation, no,
plenty of guys will get to the titles. I'm saying there are certain criteria. Not only do you need a number of titles, you need to also have, you can't just like Tim Duncan has 5, but the Spurs never 3-peated.
So, but I feel like the whole argument with, don't get me wrong, I think I put Jordan number 1.
Right.
So
that's me too.
First things first. I'm not trying to make a case for LeBron. I'm just saying you can't use the 6 titles as the bar when he's 6-0 in the finals, but all the years he didn't make it, it's just because the East was just probably the better conference at that time.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, once he started making the finals, he won 3, quit 2 years for baseball, came back, won 3, and then he basically dropped off the cliff. But before that, he just never made the finals because he would run into that Detroit team. He would run into those
Celtics
or the Celtics early on. But once he got past them, it was just him the rest of the time. Well, but that's why, I'm not saying 6 is the number. I put it at 5 because I think that's more realistic, and guys can get the 5. But I also have the criteria of you have to be dominant enough where you win 3 in a row. That's something that not a lot of players have. Even at that, that's Jordan, that's Kobe, that's Shaq. There's not a lot of players. There's not. Yeah,
he didn't win 3 in a row.
Exactly.
3 or 4.
Even Duncan doesn't have 3. Duncan's got 5, and Duncan's got 5 where I think he only had 1 series go to game 7, and that was that Miami series. But otherwise,
put that high because
but that's my criteria.
3 in a row isn't anything.
It's a very tough thing to do. All right. And it's something that if you're a dominant player on a dominant team can get done. So that's my second criteria on top of you need 5 rings minimum. I don't care. The
NBA wasn't changing as rapidly as it is now. NBA rosters, you basically just drafted new players the next year and then hope they developed. Whereas now it's just everyone's just we got to catch up to the team that's in first place, and that's LeBron or Curry. So we got to do what they're doing. And so now everybody's rapidly advancing. So I think three-peats are going to be really hard to come by.
Agreed. But I'm still keeping it as a criteria until it's like 30, 40 years before we see one. But at this point, like we just saw one in the early 2000s, and we've had a few teams like Warriors almost did it 5-6 years ago. They had a win, then a loss, then a double. So like they could have won 4 in a row. So like I'm not throwing it out that can't happen. So like that's my second criteria. And then the third one is you have to be dominant enough where you're not getting pushed to a lot of game 7s. Because that's another thing people don't realize, that Jordan never went to a game 7. He never needed it. He finished it off in 6.
Yeah, but he also didn't make the finals every other year. He didn't win the finals.
That's true. But when he was in the finals,
that's my point,
he was the most dominant guy in that series, and their team won in 6. So like it's my criteria, but I think that is enough to get you in a very, like, if you have those things, I could now like legitimately argue you against Jordan. Whereas I don't really see a legitimate argument with LeBron other than he's some amazing talent. But I also think Giannis is some amazing talent and might end up having better stats than LeBron at the end of it.
I think
will he be in that Jordan greatest of all time conversation is what I want to see. And so I think Milwaukee is on that route. If Giannis can three-peat, even if he then like loses a finals and isn't perfect, if he can three-peat and then when he does win, he only goes to game 6 because he beat Phoenix in 6 games last year, right? That game 6, he went for 30 and just ended it. I'm pretty sure, right?
Correct. But let me get back in here and bring it full circle because we talked about the NFL. And I think the NBA makes this good comparison to what you guys were talking about. And again, I love that you guys had a debate without making it a debate show. Because I think there's a difference between having a civil debate or a discussion, is what I call it, because I'm a grown man, so everything's a discussion. I got dad jokes of the wazoo. But look, I love that we didn't like turn it into like a 30-minute diatribe. What I will say, though, is as we tie it back to the NFL, we tie it back to sports, we have to realize as things change, we can't really compare eras because Michael went to college, okay? And then LeBron didn't go to college, so the numbers are off. And now the NFL goes from 16 games to 17 games. Now we got the play-in game, so the playoff numbers for basketball are going to be off. You know, baseball has made different rules to the strike zone and different overtime rules, and so at some point we have to just admit that the sport's different. Okay, now maybe you pay homage to this guy. You know, Bill Russell was the most dominant from this period to this period. Then it was Shaq, and and so forth, and maybe it's somebody we don't know about yet. Double J, if you got any questions for us, man, shout them out. But one of the big themes, and I didn't even anticipate this happening, and I want to give Double J a shout out as I finish up this point, is when I said the Celtics sucked to the playoffs, I also mean the Lakers sucked. And I also mean that maybe some of these better teams in the NFL can have bad drafts. The Patriots, the Packers. I think the Packers not drafting a wide receiver until as late as they did was a mistake. And so maybe we're seeing the uprising of the puppies. And these big dogs, these historic teams, they don't deserve as much credit. The Lakers played like shit this year. If all that happens is the Celtics beat the Nets and then they get swept by the Bucks, that's a failure. But it's okay for the big dogs to lose their bite once in a while and for us to see something new and something fresh. Because guess what? Freshness, differences and things like that. That is part of the game, Like when Richard Jefferson joined LeBron James, to push LeBron James to the edge. Those are the stories that interest me. So it's like we can see these new teams, and then maybe an older guy comes in and elevates, one of these three-peat teams and stuff like that. That's the kind of storylines you hope for and you root for. Speaking of rooting for, I want to mention it because he gave us some love tonight. Double J has his own Discord channel where he talks about DFS and breaks it down with a smart collection of people. If he wants, he can shoot out his link to me. I'll make sure I put it in the description at the end of this podcast if he would like to. But I have to admit, I have to admire at least Double J's commitment to DFS. This is one of the smartest guys. He's trying to build his own community. He's also trying to keep it tight knit, so he might not want to blast it off to the public domain yet. But I'm just saying, watch out for this man. He's making some big moves in the DFS community. He's one of the smarter guys I know. So go
I
ahead.
just wanted to shout out Double J too for all his comments, and I've been reading them. I wanted to say it's interesting because him being a Broncos fan, he knows the team better than most casual fans of just the NFL, and I'm thinking I know the NFL pretty well, and I know Hamler, but I'm thinking with Russell Wilson, I'm like, all right, he's got Jerry Jeudy, he's got Cortland Sutton. These guys are going to be the two guys that are going to – one of those guys is going to be the guy that takes off next year fantasy-wise, not just DFS, but I'm thinking for my regular Bar League fantasy team and stuff like that. But with Hamler, I didn't personally know that Hamler was specifically the slot guy, and if I watch more Broncos game, I probably know that too. But good, I appreciate you shouting that out. And I think most good quarterbacks know the slot guy is your most open guy most of the time because he's going to have the most mismatches. He's going up against either third string corner or linebacker, or safety. So it's just mismatch after mismatch. There's not a guy, and it's usually your shorter, faster guy in the slot. So, Tom Brady always uses a slot. Guy like Russell Wilson makes sense. He likes Lockett. Not to say he didn't like DK either, but and if Double J, I trust his knowledge. It sounds like he definitely knows what he's talking about. He's the best deep ball guy. It sounds all right to me, actually. I'm starting to sway my thinking of how the Broncos offense is going to look, but I'm definitely even thinking more now. They're going to be a tough team to go against in the AFC West. The Chiefs, the Raiders are going to be good too, and so are the Chargers. That's going to be one of the best divisions to watch in football. They're going to be the new NFC West. Now that Russell's jumped conferences.
Well, let's jump the shark, and I'll get Gov back in here because I know me and Gov, we like kind of the niche DFS kind of communities and different sites. And there's a new DraftKings site called Jock Market, which is stock market for the DFS community. And so it's would you rather have stock in this player or this player? And so, Gov, if you would entertain me, I got some ifs, thans, or passes for you as we kind of find a fun way to talk about some of this stuff. And Mike elaborated very well on the Denver Broncos. Would you rather have Cortland Sutton or Jeudy if you had to buy stock in them?
Sutton. But I'm a safe guy. Judy's Sutton. I prefer Sutton though.
What about you, Mike?
I've never been a Jeudy guy, but
I'm gonna say
I'm excited to see both of them with a premier quarterback. I know you like Drew Lock, but I wasn't a hater of him, but I also didn't think that high on him. And I do know Russell's really good, and I know.
See, I actually
Double J says Sutton over Jeudy, so I'll trust him. He knows more. I like Jeudy in college. I saw more of him, but I do know I saw Sutton at SMU a little bit, but
I'm gonna let me be honest, Mike. I think Russell's still good, but I think Russell's elevator is going this way, buddy. I think we're going down. I honestly, I don't think he's a bad quarterback at this point, but I honestly think Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson at this point in their careers. And I don't say that because Russell's this terrible quarterback. I say that because what made Russell really good, I don't feel like he can do as well as he once did, where Kirk is always going to be a pocket guy. Russell relied so much on his creativity, not even as a runner, because like Jalen Hurts is a runner, right? Tim Tebow was a runner. When I think of guys that create in and out of the pocket, I think, like I'm talking guys that are creative, that are what I would consider musicians. Like Aaron Rodgers in his peak was creative and he was unique because of that creativity. We've seen him dip because he can't be the same guy outside the pocket. I think that's coming for Russell. Now, will some of these young puppies, a Handler, a Judy, a Sutton, will they be able to help him overcome it? A Cooey Burnham could be like his Jimmy Graham, a prime Jimmy Graham could just be ready to fizz out and really show us some carbonated pop, and score 8 touchdowns and have that Julius Thomas-like season for the Denver Broncos. But I don't think you can ask Russell Wilson to carry a team anymore. I think it was more than the thumb. I think his play has went down as an elite quarterback. He's still a good quarterback. I just won't put him in the elite category. So if I had to ask you guys, though, you take stock London for the Falcons or Pitts for the next 2 years? Let's start with Mike first.
For
me, it's Pitts.
Yeah, I was gonna say my fantasy team name. I drafted Kyle Pitts last year, and then my best guess was to name my team Pitts McGee, and so I couldn't drop him after his first couple bad games. But then it worked out because he happened to have a pretty good rest of the year. So I'm gonna roll with Kyle Pitts, also because I didn't know London too much, but I do like that Ritter's got 2 big targets in the red zone. Like, that's going to be a luxury. I think he's going to do quite well.
Yeah. Just to prove that we talked about all sports here in different avenues and put that on display, I got to know, are you a Hulk Hogan guy or a Macho Man Randy Savage guy?
I was always a Hogan guy.
So you're
but to be honest, I always loved the Warrior over both of them.
So I put you in a time machine. Now.
Hulkamania.
I mean, Hulkamania was the thing, but like, if you're giving me those two, I'm going Hulk. But if the Warrior is there, I'm going Warrior. I'm going crazy. And like when the Warrior won both titles. Warrior was the world heavyweight champ and the Intercontinental champ at the same time. Remember?
Yeah.
He was also a prick.
I will say the one thing about the Warrior that I really appreciate is
Hogan. Double J.
Go ahead, read it off, man. Give Double J some more love. I like it. We got a good.
No, you just said Hogan, so I just wanted to say.
First of all, that's because Double J eats good vitamins and also feeds his dog probably good vitamins. Because this man. I'm telling you, Mike, I'm gonna send you some photos. This man takes care of his dogs, man. I would live in Double J's doghouse outside of his house. That's how good he takes care of his dog. So make sure you drink your milk and take your vitamins. But I will say one of the coolest things about the Warrior was his actual death was crazy. Like he had a reunion with the WWE. The WWE let him come back, let him give this big speech. Had this like big cathartic moment where he like let a lot off his chest. Him and Vince kind of had to reconcile, and then like I want to say the next 2 days that died. Like
literally the next night died of a heart attack. Yeah, was on Monday Night Raw. Died on Tuesday.
That just happened recently, but I can't put my finger on it.
See, but I think that's beautiful. I got to be honest because again, we talk about
Well, it's like Kobe, the day after LeBron taking his Lakers scoring title.
it was his last tweet. One of
It's so crazy.
he was like, "You're the king now," or he made reference to LeBron James passing him, and it was like,
Yeah,
now you're the
just nuts. I mean, every era, it's just like it's better than the next too, in a way. I mean, it's different, and
well,
the old heads don't like it for sure because it's different from their game. But
to prove I'm not a homer, Kobe Bryant's last interview, right, was promoting his children's books, which I haven't read, by the way, but I heard they're great. So that might be what I get my nephew. Luckily, he doesn't listen to this. He likes to listen to some Japanese cartoons for the most part, so he won't be tuning in anytime soon to our senior stream. But so I might be picking up Kobe's books for the young man. But in his last interview, Kobe gave a shout out to Trae Young. So we'll give a shout out to Kobe. He thought Trae Young was like the next up and coming superstar. When I asked him of all the young guys he could have, Kobe took Trae Young. Do you think Trae Young is gonna win a championship in the next 8 years by himself as the main guy?
no.
Sorry, Kobe, I have to agree with you guys, man. I think you were wrong on that. I think the kid that doesn't get enough credit that could like lead a team, and I think you will see it. And like I'm talking to guys that we don't know. So basically the Devin Booker ascension that we saw with Devin, like where you might get a veteran to come in and kind of boost him up like Chris Paul did for Devin, and then bam. Or like Giannis was just great from day one. The guy that I think is going to take the next step, though, in the next couple of years, you're really going to see, is Cade Cunningham with Marvin Bagley. I think what they're doing right there is building a young Phoenix Suns team. Because look, you got Cade Cunningham, not obviously the Nash shooter, but as a creator could play that Nash role. You got Jeremy Grant could play a Sean Marion type role, and the sleeper pick. And I'll get to Bagley because a lot of people will probably think that's a sleeper, but the real sleeper on that team, the Joe Johnson of that team, Killian Hayes. I really believe in Killian Hayes. You guys got to realize that some of these foreign guys take a while to get there. And this kid played over in Australia. He didn't have, obviously, the Coach K type pedigree coaching and probably didn't have some of the facilities just based on being their primary sport. So I think it took Killian some time, and sometimes it takes shooters a bit more time. I mean, look at Grayson Allen, who's really just found a home. So, but I think that Pistons team, and then they're going to add a top 5 pick, a top 10 pick, most likely. That team could have like a Phoenix Suns out of nowhere kind of run of early 2000s, I like that a lot. Now, is there any other questions that came to your guys' mind that you could rapid fire? I like to be kind of caught off guard, so I almost challenge you guys. Any kind of crazy takes you guys can give me. Even Double J, he's pretty good at putting me on the spot. He'll double down and put me on the spot if you guys can't do it.
All right. I got a question. In the UFC this weekend, totally changing sports.
Yep.
Who you got in the main event? Oliveira or
Well, first of all, can we be honest? Like that's not the
Gaethje?
main event. That's not the main event. Give me the real main event.
No, Oliveira Gaethje is the main event.
No, it's not.
That's the real main event.
It's a good. No, look, I'm being a little bit facetious. That's just because the UFC has been so fantastic recently. Because Rose Namajunas, I mean, they're putting on all kinds of good fights. If you guys don't watch the prelims of the UFC, I don't have time for you, man. The UFC, top to bottom, is probably the best sport there is right now, outside of maybe golf. I'm not kidding. Like,
UFC is better than golf. It's way more entertaining than golf.
No. What I'm saying though is like top to bottom when you look at rosters, right? Because like look at the NBA, right? Like now we care about the NBA because we're getting the best teams against the best teams. but nobody wants to watch the Sacramento Kings against the Orlando Magic. You can almost put on almost any fight right now in the UFC, and you're gonna get a slobber knocker, to steal Jim Ross's old term. I mean, dude, these fight night cards are better than some of these NBA performances we're getting out there. I mean, and golf is a lot the same way. Like, we're talking young kids coming from these amateur leagues and just like throwing up good numbers and making cuts. Maybe they, like I'm telling you, some of these younger kids are taking to these sports that me and Mike grew up in. They kind of got laughed at or thought it was human cockfighting. Some of these sports are really showing out to be good. But to answer your question, Gaethje, man. Gaethje, I've never. I'll put my money where my mouth is because I've never been an Oliveira guy.
Oliveira scares me. He's good.
I think he's tough. I think Oliveira is tougher than Tony Ferguson. I've always said that. I think Oliveira is
right now. He is because
right.
Just,
dude, that guy can take on a storm. Like, okay, he's obviously talented, technical. I just found him to be boring and not exciting and just like overhyped. But I will say this, overhyped in the fighting sense, because from a human perspective, I would actually be sad if he was to pass away or to something bad happen to him. There are fighters in the UFC where if they died tomorrow, I would smile. And I will just say, I will leave it at that. So what I'm saying to you is, Oliveira is a human. I love him. There are people in the UFC that I think get a lot of attention who don't deserve it. And Oliveira deserves that attention over those guys. And some of those guys sucker punch other people. And both of those suckers don't deserve attention where Oliveira does. It's just, I don't think Oliveira is a top 5 guy. I think he's like a top 10 guy.
What?
He's just not in my top 5, Mike.
He just beat Chandler and Poirier.
I know. For me,
who's in your top 5?
I mean, obviously, you're talking weight classes, but like,
and in the weight class. You don't think he's top 5 in the weight class?
No, I'm saying of all the UFC. Of course, he's in the top 5 of his weight class.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying like,
so you got to be more clear when you say that, because you just said he's like, I don't think he's top 5 or maybe top 10, but
to make an NBA comparison,
like he's the champ.
No, to make an NBA comparison, I think you'll appreciate this. He's like the Tim Duncan of the UFC. He's good. He's fundamental. He's a champion. He deserves all the credit. He'll never do a bad thing in my book. Like, Oliveira is a class guy. Oliveira is the type of guy that would like buy a hot dog for all the kids for like the next 20 minutes and sign all the autographs. He just doesn't excite me. I just don't see him being a long-term
I think he is exciting, though. That's where I would say it's a little bit, not to slight Tim Duncan, because he had a great career and he's obviously
right,
super amazing, but they call him the big fundamental because, yeah, he's not sexy or whatever you want to say. But Oliveira, he can knock you out. He can dominate you on the ground and submit you and be like a snake and an anaconda choke you. But like, he knocked Chandler out. And then he submitted Poirier like that. He's just so he is super, super talented.
I get that it might be a blind spot for me, and it probably is. But like, I just never gave guys like that as much in ring or in performance credit. Like, I've never been an Alex Smith guy. I think he was more team than individual. I've never been like a Kirk Cousins guy. Like, there are just guys that are good that have blind spots for me. Oliveira might be a sex machine. I'm not taking the Viagra to get excited for that guy. For Gaethje, I don't gotta take Viagra, man. I'll be hard for that guy until I'm 95 years old. I mean, Gaethje
Love watching his fights.
and to
Absolutely.
be honest with you, Gaethje pisses me off. Gaethje, if you ever listen to this, you piss me off, man. You should have taken less money to get more notoriety early on in your career. Because I tell you what, you could have dominated the UFC for many more years than you did. I think you played around in those little sandboxes too long, young man. And I'm really excited for you because you're in a position where you can be a lightning bolt for this organization, and I think it's going to take you to the next level, and you're finally going to get that mainstream attention, that WrestleMania moment, if you will, since we talked about that sport. But like, Gaethje is a real fucking deal, man. And the only thing about Gaethje that irritates me is he just wasn't fighting the best people when he could have. And like, I get it, get your money. Mighty Mouse pisses me off that Mighty Mouse isn't in the UFC for that same reason. And I get you're a traditionalist, Mighty Mouse, and you want to be fair to the sport. And you're probably facing some really cool Japanese or some really cool Londoners that I've never heard of that are tough as nails. But like, get your ass back in the major leagues, man. Look, just like Henry Cejudo, put yourself back in the. I don't care what we got to do with. I don't care. Maybe we got to give Dana White some Deion Sanders like hair again and dress him up to look different, Mike, so then people don't think it's Dana White. Whatever we got to do to get these best fighters back in the UFC, man. We need Harrison back in there too. Get Carla Harrison back in. I want to see it all. I want to see Cyborg back in there. I'm a big fan, man. I'm a big fan. I will say though, in all seriousness, it's not just about the UFC. Bellator is putting on some really good performances out there. In all seriousness, if you guys want to watch fighting, there are some really good organizations. Bellator is out there. Even that bare knuckle does some good stuff. You know, I get why they give Paige Van Zandt a chance, but come on, there are a lot of other bare knuckles I want to see other than Paige Van Zandt. Gov, you got any questions for me, man? As we give him rapid fire here.
What'd you think about John Rahm today?
He almost choked.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I had him as a clear winner, but like, what did you think about him today?
I think it was smart for John because John's been kind of in a slump. He's obviously a top 3 golfer. He's basically been a top 3 golfer all year, but he's just been in this like weird funk where like he needed a win, right? It's like Kobe. If Kobe's efficiency was crazy and he was hitting all of his mid-range shots, but he just couldn't shoot a 3. Like Kobe let's say Kobe made 85% of his mid-range shots, but just like literally shot 20% from 3. And it's like, damn it, if Kobe could just make 1 3, then like the seal would be broke again and he'd get his confidence back. No one ever doubted John Rahm as top 5 for this season, next season, 20 years from now, as like long-term viability. But he needed a win, and he hung on to get it. But a real young guy, we talk about Gaethje, a guy that I absolutely love, that I'm proud of, and I don't care that he finished second, third. I think he finished second still. But Cameron Champ has been one of my sleeper picks in golf in a long time. And I don't care that he didn't get first place. He put on a performance out there. And so I'm proud of my man, Cameron Champ. Some of my other favorite golfers, just to get them out there because we don't talk a lot about golf. Victor Hovland, Matthew Wolff. I'm going to actually, you know what? There's going to be sometime next week where we might not be able to do that many podcasts. I'm going to do maybe a podcast by myself where I talk about some of my more under the radar guys. And Matthew, I got a cool story about Matthew Wolff. I could do almost a monologue on Matthew Wolff. He struggled with some mental health stuff. And so because he did that and because I just like the way he carries himself as a human, like I got some good human stories to say about Matthew Wolff. So I'm cheering for him to have a bounce back in his career as well, like Cam Champ did this weekend. So John Rahm hung on. We all expected him to win one eventually. But I think the bigger story is Cameron Champ and some of these younger guys really coming on.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Now, Gov, you've been paying attention to a lot more sports, whether it be USFL, golf. What's the like really fun niche sport you've been paying attention to this year that you didn't think particularly that you would like, or maybe like kind of surprised you over time? Like anything stuck out that the people should be paying attention to?
I mean, I'm personally thinking the USFL isn't too bad. Like it's a developmental football league sort of thing, so you got to take it with that grain of salt. But it's been putting on some decent product, or at least one good game a week, which is always nice to see. Although the game tonight's looking okay.
I will say that Scott kid, man, I'm telling you, I think Scott will start a game in the NFL.
He might.
Not play, not get a cup of coffee in preseason. I think Scott, Brian Scott's going to play in the NFL as a starter. And I think his coach is going to get a chance before he dies to coach in the NFL. And both stories are terrific because his coach coached mostly Division II, Division III, and really like kind of bought into like developing kids that don't get chances. And so wouldn't that just be a Cinderella story to get? Mike, any bold like recommendations, takeaways, things that going under the radar that you've always appreciated? Maybe you appreciate recently, appreciated 20 years ago. Anything like getting swept on that in Mike's world? I know you're a big UFC guy, so you could even speak on that, like just the evolution of that sport, even like how cool it is. Like anything for the people?
I just like how wide open the UFC is usually, like pretty much you said here I'm saying I'm questioning you when you said Oliveira's top 5. He's not top 5, he's top 10. I'm thinking like you mean by in his division, and you're like no, I just mean like overall. So like that's the pound for pound rankings, and that's the beauty of the UFC. It's like at different weight classes, like if all these guys were the same weight, it'd be it'd be easy to settle, but you can't settle it. Whether Cejudo, now granted Cejudo's probably going to come back up higher and hopefully fight Volkanovski or something like that, but until these guys settle it at a certain weight, then it's it can always be debated. And then even then, so like Cejudo, if he loses to Volkanovski, can always say, well, I mean, I had to bulk up for that fight. You're fighting at what you naturally fight at, which is actually like you're cutting to get to 140, where I had to fucking bulk up to be that, or that's what I actually walk around at, which is probably true because he cut to 125, so he probably walks around at like, who knows what he walks around now, but like I don't know. UFC is crazy with how you could debate pound for pound. Like it all depends on your win streaks and how dominant you are at your class, like your weight class.
Can I have like a 1.5 to 2 minute rant?
Go for it.
Where I'm going to blast all the other sports. Get ready for this. The UFC actually cares about all their athletes, where some of your sports don't give a shit. The NBA says that they care about the WNBA, but they don't advertise that shit. It's going to start next Wednesday, I believe. I don't even know, and I'm a huge basketball fan. I know Paige. I've been touting Paige since she was in high school. I knew Brittany Griner before she was even 6 foot tall. I'm a huge fan of basketball. And I'm not even saying that Mike needs to be a fan of basketball. I'm not even saying that Gov needs to tell his dad to watch it with a clicker on Thursday night. That is a personal choice that fans should make on their own. But what pisses me off, and I have a lot of respect for Adam Silver, but the pencil neck bastard pisses me off sometimes because he comes on there and he claims the NBA cares about the WNBA, but he would rather show you John Wick NBA Finals sponsored content which don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Keanu Reeves, man, all the way. But don't tell me that the WNBA or the NBA wants to get in bed with the WNBA, and then they let their players or their moments slip through their fingers. And then, speaking of bed, they'll stand by while people make sexist comments, because the UFC does not stand for that shit, and they actually give their women platform. That's why I was joking with Mike. Is the main event should be Rose against Claudia and
Carla.
Sorry. See, there's so many good women that I'll get them mixed up with them. That's a rematch. That means that's been seen before, and people want to see it again.
Rose had long hair back then. Rose had hair.
But people want to see it again, Mike, because it was that damn good. The UFC, they don't care if you're a woman. They don't care if you're African. They don't care if you're from Japan. They give everyone a chance. Dana White does not have to agree with you. He gives you a chance. He doesn't even half the time know what the media is saying to him at the end of these press conferences, because his ears are blown out, because he goes from Japan to London to these tropical islands to these broken down casinos to find any and every fighter he can. And I'm not here to tell you that Kobe Covington is for me, but he gives Kobe Covington a chance, just like he gives Amanda Nunes a chance. And if he doesn't like you, he'll say it. He never liked Ben Askren. He was open about that. If the NBA doesn't want to support the WNBA, then get it off your damn broadcast. Don't pretend to care about it when you really don't. Tina Charles has been killing the WNBA for years, killing herself. But she is never going to be the star Ronda Rousey was, and that's partly our fault, and me included as a big NBA fan. That's partly everyone's fault. But it's
Bird's in a lot of commercials.
But it's not just that. They don't advertise that as like, they don't tell you that Steph Curry and, some of these other women can shoot just as good. They don't tell you that Tarazi and Steve Nash had similar handles, even though they did. And they put it.
Say something else. I don't know why.
They'll put these women on the stage for like 5 minutes during the All-Star game. But if they really cared about them, they wouldn't do that. They would. I'm not even saying they need to, but don't act like you care about it and they're not, because at least Dana White will put his women on the same card. He will headline women fighters because he doesn't view them as women fighters. He said Amanda Nunes is one of his more higher profitable people. And you know what also he said, Mike, that I like about the UFC? He was honest. He said it's because she's a lesbian. It's because she's a Mexican. So she draws in that community.
She's Brazilian, but.
Well, okay, I'm all fired up. I knew that. She's a lion. But look, the NBA and the NFL to that stand, they're so they are so political. The NFL made Sean McVay apologize because of an offhanded compliment or comment he made about Bill Belichick. And sure, maybe there is some bad blood, but let that blood boil. That's what sells in the UFC. That's what sells, the Gypsy King and a sport that I don't even pay that much attention to in boxing. Let some of these storylines. I mean, what if Bill Belichick and Sean McVay face off again in the Super Bowl? Let that be a fun storyline. Why do you think, Gov likes the wrestling so much? Is because of that Bret Hart screw job with Shawn Michaels.
No, I did the Montreal screw job. Don't even get me started on that one. Oh.
Yeah, but at least Vince McMahon will take off his leather belt and pull on his pants and admit mistakes. So we've seen documentaries about that. There are sports, NBA, NFL, that will always try to protect the shield. But let's look at it. Why do you think Amazon is killing it right now and about to kill the NFL in terms of ratings? Because they already talked about not doing commercials during their broadcast. They're bringing in Kay Adams. from the NFL Network, most likely. She is leaving the NFL Network. She admitted it. Amazon's most likely going to bring her in. They're already talking about doing companion shows similar to Peyton Manning and might even do the Peyton Manning show. If not, they're talking about doing one with Marshawn Lynch. You know, even leagues I don't like this Arena Football League. Did you see the comments they had the other night? So they were asking Terrell Owens where he gets motivation from, right? And they put a mic in front of his face. He gave a real answer, and so they had a fun back and forth with it, where they asked Terrell Owens what gets him excited. He said, "I talked to my friend like Chad Ochocinco," and they said, "Oh yeah, what was so cool about that?" He said, "Me and Chad had a conversation. I'm ready to go. I took a lot of Viagra tonight. I'll be rock hard, ready to go." And the announcer had a back and forth with him and kind of played with him because she knew that's what he was doing. He was having fun. He was being entertaining. And they weren't worried about like sponsorship and like saying the right things. Because sometimes when you're having fun with your friends, you're just having fun. You're just shooting the shit. That's what we do. That's what we like. So I want to close up by giving you the last words, Goga. I know you mentioned on our last podcast about your billiards league. How's that going for you, buddy? Talking about shooting the shit, just getting into that bingo hall kind of atmosphere, enjoying some time with your friends. Give us an update, buddy. How's it going?
League's going good. We won the first week, like I said, on Thursday. I'm getting some good practice in this week. We got tri-cups going for the shot at Vegas. That'll be the fun one.
Is there any
Tri-cups are the weekend of the 13th, so I got a week to prepare.
now? Is there any kind of Teespring, any kind of merchandise we can these guys give you any shout outs, man? Anything we can do for you? Maybe pay for a billboard. How do we show you some love and support? Is there a stream out there? Anything like that?
Oh, I'm working on that. When I have that ready, I'll make sure to let everyone know. But like, I'm working on stuff like that, to be honest. So
I would love it if me and you we even talk about board games one of these podcasts. Like I'm willing to go off the wall with some of this entertainment and some of this sports. Like I want to talk about the niche sports. I want to talk about the creators, and I want to talk about the big stuff. I want this to be a cat in a hat kind of experience where it's like you'll eat with a fox, you'll eat with a box, you'll eat the green eggs and ham. We're gonna do it all. That's the kind of thing I want. Mike, I saw that you turned off your camera. Does that mean you're away? I'm assuming so. I was going to give you any last minute techniques or tips or tricks.
I just got back. What's up?
We're just wrapping up, but we gave Gov some love with his billiards league. He gave us a quick update on that. I offered to buy my billboard to show him some support. He's going to try to get a stream going for us. But what interesting things are you looking forward to covering with this podcast? I guess would be like the question I would ask you.
Next week's UFC fight, definitely. If we could do that again, that'd be fun.
It's gonna be a big. I do have
and then just mostly the NBA playoffs right now. Those are the two things. Like we got NBA playoffs every night. It does stink that it's only usually going to be 2 games a night and sometimes only 1 game a night, which I'm not a huge fan of the showdown lineups, but sometimes you can find the value. But
now, did I go too hard on that? Like, I just don't like how we talk about how we're an equal sports thing and then we're not. Like, the WWE and the UFC do a good job of representing all kinds of people. Even AEW, I gotta give a shout out. They have a trans wrestler out there. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to believe in all these things, but I think you should give everyone a chance, no matter what creed or color they are. And some people are about that life, and some people aren't. But Mike, what I was saying though is there any advantages or things that like people aren't paying attention to, whether it be video games, maybe it's a 2K league, maybe like, do you see any of these like newer things popping off that are going to like surf and feed like NBA or NFL or maybe it's USFL, like anything the new kids are doing. I think this Amazon thing is really interesting. I'm going to be honest. I think the way Amazon's approaching the NFL is going to be very interesting. To give you some time to think about it, like a guy like Marshawn Lynch.
No, not really. I mean, I got nothing to say there.
Well, a guy like Marshawn Lynch might be doing his own broadcast, like a Peyton Manning style broadcast. Where
Marshawn Lynch broadcast would be like a Marshawn Lynch like Monday Night Football broadcast, like that'd be pretty good.
I think there's an avenue for like where we just talk about sports, and that's what we try to do in this show. So, I guess, is there anything you want us to cover that we're not covering yet, Go? Because I want to do some research. Maybe we talked about some Yokozuna stuff. Maybe I gotta dust off some old Japanese footage and have it ready for you next week so I can do a deep dive.
I mean, if you really want a sport that we could deep dive that I could talk about, there's an esport I watch and play.
Sure, yeah, shout it out.
I mean, well, I'm a League of Legends fan. As much as people might think how toxic that community is, I love the game myself, and I'm a MOBA fan myself. I like that game style, so League is something I latched onto. I'm not horribly good at it. I'm nowhere near as good as these pros, but I understand the game well enough on that sense.
Well, I wanted to keep this under an hour and 30 minutes. So you got like 4 minutes, Kev. You can go crazy for 4 minutes about this topic that nobody else is talking about. So tell me what people are missing about League of Legends.
I mean, you get a full team sport.
Yep.
The draft system. That's where we're going to start. You get a draft system of all of the champions. So like right off the bat, your snake draft, like think about any like dynasty league or fantasy league you've been in. If you're in like a 12-man league or a 10-man league, you're drafting against those guys. Now you're doing that to try to get the 5 best people to fit with your 5 guys that you're playing with, because it's a 5-on-5 game. But people can counter pick. So like champions are good against other champions. Champions counter other champions. Champions need to be countered by other champions if you're going to play, if people play them. You also get a ban. So who do you ban? That's where it can get intricate. Like that kind of stuff is really well known, especially when some of these top players only know, like they're good with everybody, but they're in pro play, they're playing 3 or 4 champions. So if you ban, if a team ends up banning 3 of those guys, you could totally take one player out of the game and make him subpar just by him not being able to play any of his champions. Now he's got to play someone he's not good with the mechanics, he's not good with the abilities, he's not good with the positioning. So even if he's a smart player and has good awareness and good map skills, his champion skills, he's going to get outplayed. He's going to lose lane anyway. Like it's hard to make up for that. Like you have to account for I already lose lane immediately. That's hard to make up for.
Now
so it's got some really good in-depth strategy. And then like you would think watching a video game is kind of but this like if you've ever watched a good movie, like some of these games, the fights in them, some crazy shit going on.
well, because we're running up against it, let me get Double J's comment in here, go, because I think they correlate. He thinks that the problem with one of these niche sports that's happening like your League of Legends, there's a lot of strategy in like the USFL, but the pricing is wrong on DraftKings. And
they have not caught up to that at all. Like they don't have anyone priced right.
Well, yeah, we saw a lot of zeros today. I think there was 5 players that were in the double digits, Mike, to bring you back in if you want. There was like 5 players that were double digitally owned So more than
20+% in that, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking 20%, and 5 of these players got 0 points, man. 0. So it's not.
That's why I haven't really been betting anything after the first week. I would have the other day, but who knows how I would have done, and it hasn't. I don't know. It's just going up against a lot of other top sports right now, and my attention is
So, but
limited.
are you saying from a fun standpoint, like the attention should be on like NBA because of the entertainment? Because like I would agree that maybe the USFL isn't as like cool or fun to watch as the NBA playoffs. But to Gov's point with some of these niche sports, like he's talking about the strategy of video games where a lot of people don't understand it. If you can understand a sport like the USFL or you're willing to grind the edges, I mean the profit's green, like I mentioned half an hour ago. The profit's still green. So what would you prefer though? Do you prefer like to enjoy it? Because there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of juice on Giannis, but also, you love the product.
Yeah, I just after watching, I really didn't get to watch that much the first week because it was Easter Sunday, and so you got other things going on, and I watched one game, but I didn't. And then you're going up against NBA playoffs. Like I didn't have time to catch all of the USFL games. So, do I want to risk my money on things I know or things I'm just reading up on, and then when I know what I read up on week 1 turned into a bunch of guys laying eggs?
Well, I think Double J had another good point, Mike. He said, if you really want these things to change, you have to complain about them and you have to make that adjustment, So, like, you not playing,
I don't have any. Like, I couldn't tell you what the lineups were because I told you I had a problem. DraftKings wasn't accepting my location the day of when I was trying to get a lineup in the day before, or not the day before, but like 15 minutes before. They couldn't find my location, even though I was still in the same part of New Jersey I'm always at.
Hey, I will say this. I felt bad for you as a person because, like, I've had that happen. But that's the situation.
I didn't care. I probably wouldn't have won anyway.
No, I agree. But here's the thing. That's a situation where I feel really bad for DraftKings. And we gave them shit for how they handled that one weekend of the UFC or the USFL where they had to give a ton of money back because they revealed the salaries when they shouldn't have. This one, the location thing, all the government rules, like, come on, can we loosen up our gambling rules? United States, let's be honest, it's the same thing with marijuana. It's the same thing with a lot of these things. At the end of the day, you want your money. And really what you're doing is restricting people from having the freedom to, I understand you have different, like, laws in different states, but if Mike goes 5 minutes in this direction and 5 minutes in this direction and is in the same state, we don't need to verify his location after 15 minutes, do we? I'm not saying like there shouldn't be laws in place, but some of the squeeze they put on places like DraftKings are crazy. The stuff that they're doing to DraftKings in Canada is crazy. If you guys haven't looked into that, the law they have in the UFC right now. So the only way you can really do UFC DFS that Mike enjoys is if they lock the prelims. That is nonsense. So that means, like, if me and Mike build a lineup and we want to mostly take 7 o'clock guys, our lineups lock at 4 because they have to lock before the first fight. Some of the stuff, you're making DraftKings lose so much money, and it's just nickel and diming and petty stuff, And that's also why I want to mention Double J's last comment here is you're going to ban it in Canada because Canada doesn't want to pay a crazy fee. And part of that's their government. But one of the biggest edges is hockey. So let's be let's be fair to some of the sports as gambling becomes more popular. I don't think it's the dark ages that we need to treat it like anymore. But like I said, I didn't want to go much past an hour and a half, so we're gonna wrap it up here. Double J, thanks for joining us. Again, guys, like and subscribe. Once we get to 100, we're gonna do a big giveaway. We're gonna really celebrate. We're gonna really pop some bottles and have some fun. We got some cool stuff coming down the line. Mike, anything you want to tell the people before we get out of here?
Have a good night.
Have a good night. We'll be
Peace
back.
out, everyone.
We'll be back. We'll do some of our live content. We'll maybe talk about the Sixers game tomorrow night.
Oh,
never
we
know.
got basketball tomorrow. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you never know when actually you do know. It's about 9:00 every single night. That's when. And you should like and subscribe every single night at 9 p.m. almost. That's when you'll find us. So until then, have a good night. Take care, guys.